Well, welcome.
Great. All right, let's get started. First of all, thank you so much, everyone, for spending this time with us, joining us for the virtual hangout with the Women in Product community. My name is Lingling Chen. I'm a product marketer in the Bay Area, and I have been a very long time member of this wonderful community since actually 2017. Made so many friends. So we launched this virtual hangout series back in March, just when the pandemic hit. We really wanted to provide a place for the community to hang out in a very casual way, really stay connected and support each other and help you with any challenges you may face. And then today we have the pleasure and honor to have Deb Liu. So Deb is a co-founder and board president of Women in Product. She's also the vice president of Marketplace at Facebook. So Marketplace is one of the fastest growing products at Facebook, and I'm sure many of you have already used it. So we're going to dig into that. And then Rachel, we also have a survey that we want people to fill out, right? So the state of Women in Product survey. If you don't mind posting that in the chat room, that would be great. Cool. Deb, do you want to just quickly say hi before we dig into questions?
Yeah, so welcome. It is amazing to be part of this virtual coffee chat series. And thank you, Lingling, for creating it and working on it over this time, because I think, women need connection at this time more than ever, especially as we look for new opportunities, as you're graduating, and, even just like finding community. And so we had created Women in Product actually as a community where it would be a safe space for people to talk about some of their biggest challenges and also find opportunities from each other. And, we've heard a lot of women tell us over the years that you found your next opportunity, you found your co-founders, you found people to, partners and, in this group. And that's what we hope to do. And we had actually started it. It was a group like this. We were having dinner. Actually, we had, I guess maybe 7 years ago or so, we started a series of dinners because there were so few women product managers at Facebook. And so we decided we would host these dinners to get to know people in the industry so that we weren't so alone. And there were maybe like 6 of us at the time. And we started meeting with just various folks. And then after doing those dinners for about 3 or 4 years, at one of the dinners, we're like, who's going to Grace Hopper? And a bunch of us were going. And then we said, why isn't there Grace Hopper for product managers? And we thought it would be really fun to start one. I know how crazy that sounds. A bunch of strangers having dinner saying, let's go start a conference. And so we thought, okay, well, how hard could this possibly be? It has been crazy because we started our first conference and Facebook sponsored it because we didn't know what we were doing. And so we had seating for 300 people and 4,000 people applied. And we thought, wow, there's a really big community here. We didn't even know how many women there were in product management at the time. And today our community is almost 20,000 in our Facebook group. We have chapters in over 20 cities. We are doing a virtual conference this year, so hopefully we can accommodate many more people to be a part of it. And it's just been such a gratifying experience over the last several years creating this community and actually seeing it shine and see people grow so much. And so I hope that in some small way, Women in Product has played a role in helping you and you helped others as well. So it's really about paying it forward. And, in many ways, we are just here to serve and to be a part of this community as well. And I thank you for joining this and other events. And if you ever want to volunteer, we have lots of opportunities to volunteer as well.
Yeah, and then Deb today will definitely share her career journey, her leadership lessons, but we also wanted to specifically talk about how to find our unique voice in the workplace. I know in the community, there are a lot of women in color, women, sometimes we find it challenging to communicate in a very authentic way, but also being very effective. So we also want to specifically chat about that. So if you have any questions around finding your voice in the workplace, please feel free to raise your questions here in the chat room as well. So Deb, let's get started. You have an amazing career with so many accomplishments, work on many amazing products that millions of people use worldwide. Can you share with us your journey briefly and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I stumbled into product management actually in that era, which was a long time ago. For those of you who know, I started in product management in 2002. I had actually graduated from Duke. I saw somebody from Duke in our chat thread. I graduated from Duke with a civil engineering degree, so I don't have a CS degree. I have a civil environmental engineering degree. And then I went to consulting, and then I went to Stanford GSB to get my MBA. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do coming out, and so I went to a career fair, and I stumbled upon a table that was for a startup called PayPal. At the time, it was a couple hundred people. It was pretty small, and I just told them, "Hey, I love your product," and they said, "Hey, you want to come interview for a job?" And I said, "No, not really. I'm moving back east." And they said, no, just come in and meet us. You can see the inside of our office. And I thought, well, that would be pretty cool seeing inside of PayPal. So, and it's a product that I used a lot. So I went to Tim Wenzel, who had recruited most of the PayPal mafia, and Catherine Wu, who is a well-known product manager, and she's one of the first product managers at PayPal. We're sitting there, and he goes, okay, I have roles in product and marketing. Which do you prefer? And I'd taken a marketing class, obviously, in business school, and I had no idea what a product manager did. And I thought, well, and I look at Catherine, and I recognized her. She had graduated a year before me from the GSB. I said, Catherine, what do you do? And she said, I'm in product. I'm like, that sounds good. And so I started interviewing. And during the interviews, the questions they would ask me is, what would you do with our product? And I was an avid eBay seller. I actually sold quite a bit on eBay. And I just said, here's the 5 things I would do. Like, you need to do these things. And a lot of the folks there didn't sell on eBay. And then in the end, they gave me an offer. And I remember showing up the first day, and I went to the VP of product, Amy Clement, and I said, so what does a product manager actually do? And she said, what do you mean? And she, because the interview was all about what I would build. I had no idea what a product manager did. She goes, all those things you told us you want to build, like, go build them. And I said, how do you do that? And that's how I started a rather inauspicious beginning to a product career. And I kind of stumbled into it. But what's amazing is that a product management career has been one of the most fulfilling things I've had, because you get to actually see your product change people's lives. And the products I've built over the years have touched hundreds of millions. Over 800 million people use Marketplace today. And it's incredible to think that you could build a product that you champion that's used by so many people and creates economic opportunity in the world. And that's something that's incredible, and it's incredibly humbling too. And that's why I think the career is so important, but also why it's so important to have diverse voices and diversity in those careers. Because somebody asked me how I started Marketplace, and I said, I started Marketplace because I'm a mom and I'm a woman. And it was because, who actually buys and sells a marketplace? Like, I remember advocating within Facebook, we should build Marketplace. And they said, well, who buys stuff on Facebook? And I'm like, I buy stuff all the time. I was talking to Lingling about buying, like, you buy and sell cribs, like, children's books, toys, your kids outgrow things. Like, and I could see a whole community building themselves a product that everyone in the world could use. And the question was, and so I think that unique thing about you, the thing that makes you different, that you don't trust, that's the thing that makes you special. And so I didn't, I don't go around saying I'm a mom and I do these things, but I realized that I could see an opportunity that no one else could see, and I could build something that no one else was going to build. And so in so many ways, I think often we don't trust our own voice, we don't trust our own instincts, but sometimes you see something because it's an opportunity that no one else sees, and you're not the one who's crazy, they're the ones who don't see it. And so when I talk about finding your voice, it's really about not only seeing it, but trusting yourself enough to say, you know what, I see this, come with me. Influencing other people to say, hey, this is an enormous opportunity. Why aren't we doing this already? And bringing people along and actually saying, if we could just do this, think of what we could create in the world.
Wow, that's so powerful. Thank you so much, Deb. So can you share with us what's your kind of responsibilities nowadays as a VP of Marketplace at Facebook?
Yeah, so I lead Marketplace. I run product and engineering. I also lead TPM for our organization. But our organization is set up in product group leads. And so basically it's set up so that the product and engineering functions kind of lead the strategy, the product strategy. And then, we work with those who take it to market. And so it really is kind of starting. So I do a lot of 0 to 1 work at Facebook. Over the last 10 years, I've built a lot of teams and products that start from 0 to the big launches, right? Shops, is an idea, Facebook Pay, games, Facebook credits. I've built a lot of really interesting products. And a lot of those are really starting with an idea and taking it to fruition over years and really kind of investing. And so my role has been just building new and interesting things that, and specifically, I always tell people, I pick the areas that other people don't want to work on or don't see, because that's where you can have disproportionate impact. Like if you're the, there are great people that work on really cool things like newsfeed or, things like Messenger, and that's awesome. But it's the areas where someone doesn't see the opportunity where you see the opportunity. That's where you can have outsized impact, because you can bring something really special to the table. And I really subscribe to that in my career philosophy.
That's awesome. What are some of the unique challenges of managing the marketplace product?
I think one of the biggest challenges is you're building a product for everyone in the world.
Right.
And often it is how people use the product is not how we use the product. So first of all, I think when I was in consulting, we used to have the saying like extrapolating from a data point of one or fewer, which was everyone builds the product for themselves. And the problem is that most people who work in tech make six figures, right? Especially in the Bay Area,
right,
or in these big cities. They aren't necessarily buying used things. And one of the things we do is we sell a lot of cars, but it's a lot of used cars, and it's a lot of used cars that are lower end of the market. But if we say, well, the people we know tend to buy Teslas, that's not really the market that we're serving, right? And I think often we forget that the people who need our products the most are the people who don't necessarily have a voice in the room. And that's actually why diversity matters a lot. Diversity, having people with from different backgrounds really matters, because they can help you. That's why research is so important. Really talking to people who use your product and understanding what the pain points are. I think often, you have this groupthink, right? If everyone's very similar, then the product you build will be just for you. And how many startups have you looked at this idea and you thought, yeah, that target market is literally everyone who works in tech, and that's it, right? But instead, when you look at broadly, how are people trying to use your product? And what is the barrier, and how do you break down those barriers? And how do you think about this in a holistic way?
Wow, thank you so much. So I'm actually seeing some questions here in the chat room. So before we dig into our next question, I'd love to have people ask here. Hi, Neha, are you here? Do you want to unmute yourself and then ask your question?
Hi, Deb, it's Neha.
See you again.
Yeah, I must say I'm such a big fan of yours, because I got to work with you for Women in Product, and I was quite intimidated in meetings with you, because you were just so impressive, and you would just know what you were talking about, even though you had to like switch gears from a totally different meeting, and you would like walk in and just say so much with like so little words. And it was a very very good experience for me to learn from you firsthand. So I know that there's tons of people who would kill to work with you, work for you. But what are some of the things that you look for when building out your teams? What are some of those top few qualities you look for in people?
Yeah, so I lead PM recruiting at Facebook as well. So I've led PM recruiting probably for the last 5 or 6 years, and we help shape the kinds of PMs and how we recruit PMs in the industry. And the thing I look for the most, and it's a learning mindset. Sometimes you have somebody who has the perfect experience. They check all the boxes, they have incredible experience, they've done all the things, they've achieved certain titles. And then you find someone else who's an up-and-comer who has less experience in that specific thing, but they have a learning mindset. And eventually, even though this person starts at a higher place, the person who has a learning mindset will always outgrow the person who has a fixed mindset. And so what I look for a lot is really that learning mindset, ability to assimilate feedback, ability to pivot, flexibility. Those are skills like any other. And I think sometimes we think we have this fixed idea of who we are. So I'll give you an example. I am an extreme introvert. I know that might come to a surprise to some people, but I was so introverted, and I realized I had spent my entire life being completely introverted. I studied engineering, so you never had to talk. You just had to submit your problem sets and take tests. And then I went into consulting, and I realized you just could not be successful as an introvert. And they kept telling me, like, why aren't you spending more time with the clients? Why aren't you connecting with them? And I just hated it. And so I went to business school, and business school taught me one thing, which is when a third of your grade is dependent on you speaking up, you learn how to speak up. Because I'm motivated by doing well. And so I had to learn to teach myself to actually speak up.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. A lot of us are naturally inclined, either introverted, or we're naturally don't want to speak up, or we're naturally more shy, or whatever that is. And then we use that as a crutch. We use that and say, well, you know what? I'm just introverted, so I'm not going to say anything. But here's the thing, when you don't show up, you don't show up. Nobody sees you. I remember I was spending a couple of days, we did product reviews for 2 days straight. And the head of one of my cross-functional teams was there. She was there for 2 days and didn't say a word. And afterwards I said to her, do you think your team thinks you were there? Because you never said anything. And the hard part is I said, now what do you think your entire team thinks? That they don't have a seat at the table, they don't have a voice. Mm-hmm. By you not speaking up, it's not just about you and you being shy, but they are taking your example and saying maybe they shouldn't say anything. So this is contagious. You need to step up and say something. And the thing is, she's incredible. She's incredibly thoughtful. She's incredibly influential, but she never speaks in very large rooms. And she was using that as a crutch. And I think that helped her until it didn't help her, right? She always did the work. But at some point, it's not just about the work. It's about influence. It's about explaining the work. It's about advocating. It's about getting support for the things that you do. And I know sometimes it feels like, I'm just an introvert and that's it. But that's a fixed mindset. A learning mindset is, how do I break through this? What is it that's holding me back? How do I stop giving myself a free pass? And how do I actually take back this power that I have, which is, I'm invited to this room. I have a say. How can I influence what's happening here? I describe this in this one way too. I do this class on finding your voice, and one thing I describe is, imagine that in every meeting you come into, you're leaving a photograph of yourself in that room, and it could be faded, it could be in black and white, or it could be vibrant. What do people remember? Were you even there? And if you showed up and you weren't even there, why did you even come to the meeting? Instead, really think hard about who you want to show up as and how you want to influence. And I think that often we give away our power because we just feel like, well, I shouldn't say anything, or maybe it's not my place. Mm-hmm. But actually, you're giving away a power that you already have. People invited you because they wanted to hear from you. They wanted you to be a part of this. And so the question is, are you going to choose to weigh in or not? Mm-hmm. And so I do think it is hard. I mean, that learning mindset is hard to cultivate, but at the same time, it's so incredibly important to your career. And it's one of the most important things. The challenge is, imagine you have 2 PMs, one does the work, the other one does the work but explains it to people, gets everyone excited about it, draws talent because they're up-leveling a team around them. They, get more resources. Like, think about which one you would hire. Think about which PM you'd want on your team. And so I think often we just think that the skills are purely a checkbox. But I tell people that the checklist that you have is building a product that has impact on the world with a happy team. And which team do you think is happier? The one with the influential PM who's now getting more resources, getting the message out, getting other people excited about your product, or the one who just did the work and has less influence and has less opportunity to make that team shine? And so if you don't do it for yourself, so women often don't advocate for themselves, but women, when they negotiate on behalf of other people, actually negotiate way harder. Mm-hmm. And so, imagine you're not doing it for yourself. Imagine you're doing it for your team. Imagine you're doing it for the users that are waiting for your product to get out into the world. And I think that change in mindset will be hugely different and actually cause you to think about how you're acting in a very, very different way. And it will help you move towards a learning mindset.
Wow, that's a super powerful talk just right there, Deb. A related question I have for you is, when you think back in your career or your life, are there any pivotal moments that really shaped who you are today?
I think there's a lot of moments so in every career, it's like being on a subway. So if you've ever traveled on a subway, because you are in a fixed position, the train could actually be turning right and you can hardly tell. Unless you look straight down the center of the train, you don't actually notice when things are turning. So most turning points in your career are not very obvious at the start. And if you look back over the arc of your career, you will see the points that made a huge difference, but you won't know at the time. Now it's very obvious that going to that career fair changed my life, right? But I didn't know that at the time. And, each career move I made, it seemed like a small change. And then sometimes it's been a hugely different thing. And so I think, the most influential points in my life, one is choosing what company to join, because the culture of that company, especially the first one you ever join, will shape you. it shapes you in how you think about product. It shapes you in how you think about building. It shapes you in the people who mentor you, the sponsors that you have. It puts you on the right path. I think that one of the most important things you can have in the very, very beginning of your career is to have a manager who supports you most of all. That makes an enormous difference. If you have somebody where you feel like they're at your back rooting for you, it feels completely different than if somebody is actually questioning you or undermining you or even just like ignoring you. That is an incredibly different experience. And so I think like find somebody who can be your sponsor, somebody who can support you. So my first, the first leader I ever worked for, Amy Clement, showed me that you can hire a team that's like 50% women, that you can have at one point her entire leadership team was all women. All of the directors of products were all women sitting around the table. And so it showed me that it was possible. And then I've gone to other companies where it wasn't like that, where the table was very, very different. And so I think it is important but then she showed me what's possible, which is why part of the reason I started Women in Product is I want to see more tables like hers, where it is possible for not only to be 50-50, but even 100%. That it is possible in the right conditions with the right support. And so, other choices I made, like for example, coming to Facebook was a huge decision. I had just had a baby, so I had a toddler and a newborn. And I got an email from my old engineering manager who'd come to Facebook and said, hey, we're looking for someone in product marketing. Are you interested? And I thought, that is crazy. Like at the time, Facebook was 900 people. And they worked all the time. And I thought, I'm nursing a newborn and I have a toddler. And I was on maternity leave. But it was the most influential decision in a lot of ways in my career because I had the opportunity to build such amazing products that have had such lasting impact. So I think each of these things, it just, when you get the email and you say yes or no, like that has such a difference in the path that you end up taking. And so as you think about each of these things, think about what's going to further your career, but what's going to give you more opportunities to learn too. Because I think learning is the most important thing because all those lessons, no matter what, everything else, the learning is what you take with you to your next role, to your next opportunity, to the rest of your career.
Wow, thank you. Actually, a related question I'm seeing here is from Vanny. Hi, Vanny, are you here?
Yes, that's
me. Can you, please ask your question here.
Actually, I just want to first thank Women in Product because Women in Product really helped me use my voice to ask to transition to product management at my current organization. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Welcome to the world of product management.
So I was a developer for about 15 years, software engineer, and I just transitioned to product management about a year ago. And I was wondering what kind of challenges do you think that someone like me would face when I go out to look for new opportunities? I'm in my 40s and I only have about a year of product management under my belt.
So, one of the things we do when we hire product managers, a lot of them transition from another role, TPM, program management, engineering, very common, product marketing. And so one of the things is really, recast your experience in the cast of product management, because a lot of the skills of a product managers are not so specific to product management. They're about leadership. So for example, if you're an engineer, did you do tech lead work? Right? Did you help shape the product? Did you go meet with customers? Those are all both product managers, but our tech leads and our product managers do very similar things in a bunch of areas. So really recasting that and making sure that people don't, you see how you said, I only have a year of product management experience, right? But you've downplayed what you've accomplished, right? Yeah. Instead, you could say I have 15 years of building products because you have, right? And so I think that, how you frame things in your own mind, I can already see in your own mind, you're like, well, I've only had 1 year of product experience. So it's really hard for me to transition, right? Just by the way you spoke. But actually you have 15 years of building products and understanding what customers want. Now, part of that you did, writing code, and part of that you did, doing something that's more direct on like writing PRDs or briefs. But that's okay, because I think the skills are transferable. And so I think that how you frame your experience matters a lot, because then people can hear whether you're confident that you can do this. And so 15 years of understanding customer needs and shipping great products is a wonderful headline. And whether or not that title was product manager or not, because they were willing to have you transition, clearly you were doing a good job in engineering. They knew you could do the work as a product manager. And so thus, like during that time, I'm sure there were several years where you were actually doing work that overlapped with product management. How do you talk about
Definitely.
How do you frame that? But don't downplay your accomplishments. Like I see you giving away a little bit of your power, just like, but actually like take that back and say, I have this experience, and you want the next employer to really honor that and to really think hard about what you've learned both as an engineer and a product manager, because now you've seen the best of both worlds.
Thank you.
You have the community here rooting for you, Benny.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Deb, you mentioned about learning is very, very critical. You spent 11 years, right, at Facebook, and your children even grow up so much now. How did you find opportunities to continue to grow and expand your responsibilities?
So one thing about my career at Facebook is I've built a lot of different products over the years. I started in product marketing. I worked on Facebook credits and games and helped build out those teams. I eventually worked on ads. I built mobile app install ads and the audience network, which is our ad network. I took over platform and worked on platform and built our analytics product on platform. And then I built marketplace. I've worked on Facebook Pay. I helped out on getting IG shopping, shops launched, WhatsApp payments. And so, a lot of what I've done over the years has been building interesting products in new areas. And so the way I learn is I just keep doing new things.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those products I don't own anymore. I've handed off a lot of them over the years. But that's part of the natural cycle of learning, is that you can keep doing the same thing and have the same job for 10 years, or you can actually keep evolving and start the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I started the next thing most recently, which is a small investment in the faith community. And, each one kind of multiplies itself. And part of what I want to do is, you don't want a stagnant career where you just run a team and you just do the same thing every day, because the job is the same. But in a dynamic environment like tech, you want to constantly push yourself. And so not only within Marketplace, like we work on Marketplace, but we also launch shops. We have worked on a number of different initiatives like live shopping. We have explored a bunch of different new areas in emerging markets, as well as in other verticals. We built motors and rentals. And so one of the things that you want to do is always push yourself to the next thing. And how do you think about adding that to your portfolio, culling your portfolio, and moving on to the next thing that you're excited about, so that you're constantly learning and growing.
Mm-hmm. But how do we actually raise our hands and talk to our managers about it? As you mentioned, sometimes the managers can, downplay your power or, underestimate you. And I see this question coming up in the community a lot, is like, how do we actually raise our hand so that the project we can actually take over the project or take initiative?
So one thing I've done over the years is, early in my career, I was, my manager left the team and they were going to hire a new manager. And we talked to the new manager and I was like, well, I'm okay working for him, but I'd like the opportunity to take over this team.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a huge risk. I literally I'd been a product manager for 2 years total. And I was going to run product management for the eBay business at PayPal, which is where all the money was made. Mm-hmm. Think about the risk that the head of product was taking, Amy was taking, having someone with 2 years of product experience exploring something that serious, right? Like taking over this team. And so, she said, look, why don't we do this in the interim? We'll do an interim, time, and we'll see what happens. And I told her, I know this is a huge stretch. It's a huge risk. I was a senior product. I was a SPM, and I was taking over a pretty senior role. And she gave me a chance. And it's people like her, people who are your sponsors, who say, you know what, I'm going to open this door for you. And then it's your job to make it work. Mm-hmm. And, it is those sponsors that really change your career, that give you opportunities. And she gave me an opportunity that I probably didn't deserve. And today I look back and I think, wow, she picked me to run a team, one of the most important teams. And I literally had so little experience. But at the same time, I felt the need to prove to her that it was worth taking the risk. Mm-hmm. So when someone opens the door for you, your job is to make sure that you live up to this. I tell people that I open the door for a lot of people, so I sponsor a lot of people. And I said, I wish you could see in yourself what I see in you. Because a lot of times I open those doors and people are like, I don't know if I want to manage a team, because maybe I'll disappoint you. And I said, I wouldn't offer this to you if I didn't think you could do it. But if you don't believe you're going to do it, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so when someone opens the door for you, say yes. Like open that door and say, I think I can do this, but then go prove you can do it. Because if you don't, I think it puts you in a place where, people won't open more doors for you. And so say yes, learn to say yes to the right things and no to the right things as well.
Thanks, Deb. I see Cindy here has a question. Cindy, do you mind unmute yourself and ask?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Deb. Thank you for spending time sharing your experience with us. I put a question in the chat, which is, I know like Facebook is like the biggest social platform that human beings have ever created, and this reality kind of brings a lot of challenges, unique challenges and opportunities. And I did a lot of 0 to 1 products as well, and in different companies. And you mentioned that you did that a lot at Facebook. I'm just curious from your perspective, how and when do you start considering unique challenges that might not be obvious at the beginning, such as like user trust, or bad actors might use your platform to harm other people when you're like in a very early phase of product development, and a kind of develop the ability to be able to see that in the future. I'm really curious about your take on that.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I came out of the tradition of coming from payments. And so, PayPal, if they didn't get, risk management right, the company would go under, right? Because if fraud was rampant on the platform. And so in a lot of ways, we call it adversarial product management, or defensive product management, was built into anyone who kind of came and started in that environment. Whereas there's a lot of companies that have kind of this more, we call it greenfield product management, where it's like, oh, you always look for the green path, right? Yeah. The problem is once you reach a certain scale, then it's worth attacking you. Mm-hmm. And that's when you realize that like you've hit, in some ways it's the fact that it's worth attacking means your product is successful. But I think a lot of people are then really taken by surprise by that. And so I think building that kind of adversarial mindset, knowing how something can be exploited and how you can think about it. You always look at these product plans and it's always beautiful, right? Every mock-up is like beautiful, but then you think about, what if you had a session where you invited, and we do this often, invite everyone in a room who's working on this product and say, if we failed because we forgot something, what is the thing we forgot? Is it that scammers come take over our platform? Is it fraudulent items? Is it pornography? Is it, people are abused? What is it that would take down our platform? And like, instead of rewarding people just for thinking the green path, reward them. Just take, a few hours, the people who know this product the best, and say, what is going to take us down? And you'd be really surprised, and then say, well, then how do we actually inoculate against the worst of these things? How do we think about how to like screen for these things? Do we whitelist when we start, or do we blacklist? Like even some small things. Hey, maybe on the alpha we can open it up, but like once we reach a certain scale, we have to take a closer look. But what if you didn't build a team to take a closer look and it wildly takes off, right? And so I do think even having that adversarial mindset where you've thought through some of the issues, like the red teaming, helps you really think through what it could look like if something went wrong. I think a lot of teams are caught unprepared, and you're seeing that now, in the industry, where teams are caught by surprise by COVID. Suddenly they're growing a ton, and then they realize they're the subject of fraud or issues. I mean, even the thing with Instacart and people tip baiting, it would never occur to me that would be an issue. And I'm sure there are great product managers at Instacart not thinking that was going to be an issue. And now they have to build something that seems pretty innocuous, but could actually really damage their shopping ecosystem because the shoppers will be really upset. Right. And so it is these small things that trip you up, but then clearly they've made some changes to address that. And that's just a small thing that no one, that was never an issue before because there was never a supply demand issue on the shopper and the buyer side. So I do think it's these small things of thinking ahead and then being careful to at least understand what the issues are. You don't need to build inoculations for a product that isn't successful, but at the same time, not thinking about them means that if you're caught off guard, it could actually destroy your product.
Right. May I ask a follow-up question?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So I wonder, how do you balance, because your unique background coming from payments world, and then you're a woman, I think like give you a unique perspective. But what if like not everybody in a company like have that kind of mindset, and then you kind of want to bring this up, but you don't want to sound like a party pooper or like kind of like only talk about bad things. How do you find that balance?
But I think if you talk about it in the language of being prepared, right? One thing I suggest that a lot of some of my PMs do is do the pre-mortem, which is if our product fails, let's all write down why we think it's going to fail. Because you always you write, everyone writes the press release, which is the green team, right? It's like green path, it's perfect. But lots and lots of products fail for a lot of reasons. Write the pre-mortem as to why it's going to fail. And we've done this for a lot of our products, and it actually revealed a lot of things about our product we didn't know. Because it's like scalability. Well, oh, okay, that is not something that occurred to us. Or, you know, like basically distribution, like, you know, we get insufficient distribution, so therefore this product dies in the vine or whatever, retention. And actually forcing your team to both do a green team and a red team, or sort of like the pre-mortem, the kind of press release and the pre-mortem, actually forces you to think in different ways and think holistically. So rather, think about how you just frame that as being a party pooper. Rather say, hey, I want us to be the most prepared team in this company. We're going to do this 2-hour exercise. We're going to do the press release, and then we're going to do the pre-mortem, and just make it a holistic exercise. And suddenly, you were the most prepared PM, not the party pooper PM. And now you're able to go to market and say, hey, we thought about all these contingencies. We now have these plans, and let us think about how we can ensure that we don't get into a situation that we can't get out of.
Thank you. That's great advice.
Right. Anna, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, this is Amrit Lingling. So I have a question. I don't know if you were asking me to speak up.
I was calling Anna, but feel free to ask your question.
No worries, no worries. I wasn't sure. So sorry for
No problem. Yeah, go ahead. Ask your question.
Are you sure Anna doesn't have a question? Because
she can go next.
Yeah, she can go next. Don't worry.
Sure, thanks. Thanks, Deb and Lingling for doing this. I'm a complete newbie to product management. I come from a GTM and operations analytics background. So, but I do feel very, interested and drawn to product management because in my mind, it affords an avenue to actually build something from scratch and, take it to the end. So I really liked Deborah's point on building products that are close to your heart, right? Something like you started off with Marketplace and you had really good experience personally shopping a lot. So, you could relate your personal experiences to building a product. So I was curious as for somebody like me who has got almost no product management experience, would you suggest it is okay to lead with like a hypothetical product and flesh the details out in terms of what the product would be, what the GTM strategy would be, and obviously at a very high level because it's just a hypothetical product, and use that as a kind of a getting your foot into the door when you're talking to people, right? So how would you perceive that? And if if you think this is worthwhile, how would you suggest I improve this approach?
Well, are you talking about within your own company or a different company?
I'm networking for opportunities to move to product management. So, wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, especially within your own company, go to teams where you're excited about the product and talk to them. Offer to do a hack a quarter if your manager allows it. So one thing we do support is within Facebook, anybody from any discipline can do kind of a hack a month or hack a quarter within product management if the product team is excited about you. The challenge is that you have to find, but usually it's a product that you use, right? Like there's some affinity that you have for that product. And we brought on product managers who, basically they're kind of, they're doing a hack a quarter, learn about our product, and then they kind of eventually take a role on our team. So a lot of companies are open to that because they are looking for a product talent. And if it is a team within your own company, go to a team where you love that product, you know them, where you have trust, and like find a way to help them out, doing a project or something like that, and really get to know them, because I think that's a great way. If it is something where you're going from outside, it's a little bit harder, but I'm sure there are products that you love, right? I'm sure that there are products that you use and you're like, I would love to be a part of that organization. Find somebody from that organization and like get to know them and ask them what their challenges are and how you can help. I actually think that, often we think that I think it is very hard to just straight up apply to a product management role without experience. I think we've created this weird system in product management where in order to become a product manager, you had to have product experience. And then who's giving the people the product management experience, right? And like, for example, we have an RPM program where we bring in people from non-traditional backgrounds and different experiences, but we bring on, I don't know, like 30 or 40 RPMs in the world. And it is probably harder to get a slot in our RPM program than maybe getting into like, you know, the Harvard Business School or something like that, right? So I think one of the challenges that we have is that there aren't a lot of on-ramps into product. And one of the things that we try to do is with women in product is how do we actually create on-ramps to these companies? So we've encouraged other companies to create kind of RPM, APM programs, you know, things like returnships, things like we've worked with companies to kind of help out on this, but also like, you know, if you don't stumble into it like I did and accidentally fall into product, how do you actually become a product manager? It's like it's total mystery. So, you know, with engineering and design, you can have designers have a portfolio.
Right.
You know, you can volunteer. So we've had people like work on, you know, even if you're not a designer today, you can like help out a nonprofit like Women in Product and do like, so we've had designers actually design stuff for us as part of their portfolio, right? And so our early logos and everything were created by designers as volunteers, and then eventually we've hired designers to help us. You know, if you're an engineer, you have a degree. So you have some piece of paper that says, yes, you can do this, and then you can actually go through the coding interviews. With product, it's like secret society with no entrance. And that's actually very dangerous because that introduces bias too, right? Because who gets invited into secret societies and no entrances? People who are most like the people who are already there. And so one of the things that we started Women in Product is to have ways for women to connect with each other. You know, for example, if you could, you know, volunteer with a startup that's starting out, you know, advise a startup, help do one of these hackathon projects. We, you know, you've seen some of the hackathon for COVID, those types of things. Putting those things in your resume are huge. You know, if you can get into like the finalist group of the COVID hack or one of these racial justice hacks, I think it's like such an incredible opportunity for you to meet people in this industry and get your foot in the door. But it is really, really hard because I think we've created this no entrance society that's super important to how we build products. And then we said, okay, well, the only way to do it is to find someone else to give you your first product job. And that's crazy. And so that is something I think we need to think about more as an industry as to how we can actually open doors. And that's part of the reason we started this group, is to have women help one another and lift each other up. Because if we don't do that, then, you know, we'll have more product management that looks exactly like it does today, which is predominantly men. And again, it's because, and that was sourced because for a long time, product management requires CS degrees. And, you know, 82% of CS degrees are earned by men. And so it's kind of the root of this is actually, you know, it's a male-dominated industry, not on purpose, but it's because they put in a requirement, which is a CS degree, which I don't have, and a lot of the women product managers don't have, and a lot of very successful women product managers don't have. And so it is important that we as a group fight for more opportunities to bring women into this industry, but also that we change it so that it's more accessible to everybody too.
Thanks, Deb. I want to check if Anna is here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
My kids came to the room, so I wasn't able to.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, please ask your question here.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Deb, for your time today with us. My question is, have you ever thought to start your own startup? If not yet, what motivates you to stay in your corporate, in general, in corporate world? Thank you.
I've thought about it before, and you know, when the kids were young, I made a deal with my husband that I wouldn't start something, right? Because, you know, he's general counsel of you know, a bunch of tech companies, and so he also had a very demanding job. And so we had made a deal when our kids were young that neither one of us would work in the city and neither one of us would start a company. So we've kept to that, and we've kept to that all these years. So my youngest is 8 now, so it's a little bit better. But, you know, I think the thing is, working at Facebook gives you so much leverage, right? Like I can launch a product tomorrow and have 1 million people test it, and they can tell me whether or not this product works. Whereas it's really different with your own company to start from zero. It doesn't mean that you know, and I advise startups and I invest in startups, and so I actually really care about the industry. But at the same time, it was pretty hard when my kids were young. And so, you know, over the years, I've like noodled on some ideas, but I've never kind of made that jump. I do encourage women though who feel like they have that freedom to go do it, because I think, you know, it didn't work for us because of the, you know, the demands on our time, but I actually think women should found more companies because they bring something completely different. If you actually look at women founded startups, they are more conservative around their cash. They are more likely to be profitable. They are actually better run, but they're less invested in, a lot less.
Mhm.
And so, you know, one of the things I do is I invest in funds that focus on women founders in particular and diverse founders, because I feel like those are the people who are going to find the next big opportunity. And so, you know, to the extent that you do start a company, I have a list of funds of people that I know that I've invested in who really focus on women founders, because I think women are going to solve really, really challenging problems. And, you know, they're going to solve different problems. And I think that's incredible, because a lot of the problems in the world are not just, you know, as I said, Marketplace solved a problem starting with moms. I know it sounds crazy, but, you know, the fact is that's where this community started. And, you know, I could build a product around a group of people that a bunch of other people didn't think was worth building around or didn't see. And so I hope there are more women founders out there, and, you know, maybe someday I'll do it.
Well, I have to say, Women in Product is kind of startup, right?
I did.
Because you started from zero.
My baby for a long time as well. We started it not knowing where it's going to go, and it's been an incredible ride. But I do put a lot of time into it as well. So I'm not sure I can start something else right now.
And Deb, I think I also heard that you run a comic school, like Mommy's Comic School.
So I have a comic strip called Mommy School. So if you want to go to Facebook, you can see all my comics with the kids. The kids say really funny things, and I have an artist draw them out.
That's awesome. So you have a lot of things, like a lot of creative outlets.
Yes, definitely.
All right. And Jana, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Hi. Please ask your question here.
Oh, Jana? Anjana? Oh, are you mute? She's can't hear her.
Oops. Okay. Actually, I can help her ask her question because I see her question here. So her question. Oh, hi. Okay. So she said, I started at Amazon as PM recently and was a PM at Cisco before. The cultures are so different, and then starting at a new company in this situation is very, very weird. Also, I'm a huge imposter. Do you have any advice on how I could learn and deliver great outcomes faster?
So you're saying you're imposter, you have imposter syndrome, is that correct? Yeah. You know, so the thing is, I wrote a note on how to defeat imposter syndrome. And you'll hear this theme come up as I was talking to Amrit and then Bonnie. And, you know, the problem is a lot of the challenges women face are real, but also in our heads, we make it harder for ourselves. And I'll say this, like, it is very easy to walk into the room and not be an expert. And like most men will just do it anyways, right? They'll say it. I've had men like mansplain my own product to me in front of me. And it's so funny because I'm like, I work in that industry. But the thing is, like, it's because they just are given so much confidence, but they're also like, it's self-reinforcing, right? And so one of the things that I look for, especially for women, I encourage you to do is change your mindset, first of all. So I always tell people, like, I'm not an imposter. I can be an expert at learning, right? You could say, well, I don't know what I'm doing, or you can say, hey, I'm just bringing fresh eyes to this problem. Those are exactly the same things. And yet you see, like, even when I was talking about 15 years of product experience, you know, experience building products versus 1 year product management experience, which woman would you hire? And so even just like the way we talk and just the conversation we're having here, you see a lot of those stumbling blocks that women are facing. And a lot of it is because you've been told, like, no, you need to get every 100% right. Like, a lot of women tell me, well, I don't want to say anything unless I'm 100% correct. And I said, the thing is, you're not going to have all the answers. There's just no way to know that. But you know what? You speaking up puts you at the table, and it allows you to be part of the conversation. And so one of the things I encourage women to do is really speak up and you know, overcorrect. You don't have to be the expert, but say, instead of saying, I know the answer, say, hey, can you help me understand X? Or I'm bringing fresh eyes to this problem, but I see this. Can you help me validate that? And so, you know, ask the right questions, ask hard questions, be willing to put yourself out there. Because here's the thing, someone shared the article that I shared, and I said, look, you know, failure, if you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, 100% of the products that you wanted to build, but you never put your hand and raised your hand and said, I want to build that product, do not get built by you. That is a guaranteed failure. So if I told you your path, the path of being an imposter is going to guarantee you to fail, and this other thing is going to feel super scary and it's going to feel super hard. But if you are able to be successful, you have a chance of building world-changing products. Which path would you take if you frame it that way in your own head? Mm-hmm. I think often we're afraid to speak up because what if people think we're stupid? But if you say nothing, nothing happens. You didn't influence the conversation. You gave away your power. You know, people are wanting to hear from you. That's why they hired you. They want you to have influence. And so the question is, how do you take that and how do you make that something that you can use to build the products that you want in the world? And so, you know, I think in our head, we have this idea of what failure looks like. If I told you not speaking up is 100% failure, would you take that risk? Because now you've changed your mindset, right? You have now like rethought the problem. But here's the thing: every time I go into a room and I see a group of people, and the women women who just don't speak up, anyone who doesn't speak up for 2 days when we do product reviews with our own teams, do I think these people are like, this is going to be an amazing leader, I want her to do more on my team? Or do I think, well, does she not have an opinion? Does she not care? Mm-hmm. You know, that's the problem, is that I don't usually go to people and say that, but in your head, every time you don't say something, they're like, well, does she care? Is she really engaged? Is she the kind of leader that we want on this team? And so imagine that, and then imagine what the other side looks like, which is you speak up and someone says, that's a terrible idea. That is the worst that can happen. And most of the time, that's not what happens. What happens is like, wow, hey, I hadn't thought about it that way. Let's talk. Let's take this offline and maybe we could fund something there.
Awesome, Deb. So we only have 4 minutes left. I do have 1 or maybe 2 questions for you, Deb. So how did starting this community change your life personally and professionally? I mean, all of us are benefiting from this wonderful community. What about yourself?
You know, I started this community in some ways to create community. Like, we started as dinners in order to create community for ourselves, and now we're creating community for the world, and it's been an incredible journey. Mm-hmm. It's also crazy if you had told us our first dinner that this is where it was going to come. And so I've had just an opportunity to meet amazing product leaders from all over the world, and just to see the influence that we can have. But I also keep telling myself, like, there's so much more we need to do. We need to make it possible for women to convert into product managers. We need to get more companies to be open to people without product experience. We need to create programs within colleges to actually train people in product management so you have the skills coming out. It's not an accident you end up. And so there's all these things. We need to get women into the C-suites, the CPO positions, VP of product. And so often I just feel like no matter how far we've come, there's so much more to go. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things about this community is I hope that the community will activate and help each other. Mm-hmm. Grow each other, ask each other the hard questions, find each other the jobs, and open the doors to opportunities. And I think that would be an incredible outcome of this. And at the end of my career, I've built a lot of cool products. I hope one of the things I'm most proud of is building women in product. Because, you know, someday I actually hope that we won't need this anymore, because women will be 50% of product management. And so, you know, you don't need a group that's women in products. But until then, I think that we have an opportunity to raise each other up, and that's the thing that I hope is our legacy here.
That's awesome. And any final advice for us in terms of finding our unique voice?
I think the first part of finding your voice is learning to speak up, because if you never talk, there's no voice. Second is figuring out what it is that you want to say. What are you passionate about? What is uniquely you? Mm-hmm. I've talked a lot about what I'm passionate about. You know, making it possible for women to be in tech, you know, being a good parent and mother, and, you know, building innovative products, helping people in the world, economic opportunity. So what's yours? If you had to write down the 2 or 3 things you want people to know about you, what is that? And how would you actually bring that together? And I think that, you know, having a touchstone, having something that people can connect to you to, that is really important. I used to publish, the way Mommy School came about actually is I used to publish a series of like what my kids say, like funny things my kids say, and write #MommySchool. And people actually created a comic. And I thought, I used to work at a company where everyone friended you at the end of every meeting, and I was one of the very few parents at Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is when the company was very, very young, and I had a toddler and a newborn. And I was afraid. And then I thought, you know what am I going to do? Hide my children? Like, we're on Facebook and there's pictures of my kids everywhere. I can't just like delete all of them. And so I said, I'm going to lean into this. And nobody had kids at the time. And they would like tell me when they met me in meetings, hey, I read the latest Mommy School thing. And it was really cool. And I realized it was a way for them to connect with me. Even though I knew maternal bias is a huge issue, I said, you know what? It was a way for people to see me as a human being, more so than just somebody who's at work. And they say, hey, your latest Mommy School comic was so funny. Thanks for sharing that. When I have kids, I can't wait. And so I realized that it gave people a reason to talk to me and connect with me. And so whatever that is for you, I would encourage you to look for that. Why do people connect with you? What is special about you? And then amplify that and have your voice be the thing that you care a lot about. If you care about social justice, if you care about immigrant rights, if you care about women in product management, if you care about tech, you care about the poor, what is it that you care about? Hunger, like what is the thing you care about? And then like go volunteer your time, and then also bring up other people along, because they want to see the whole you and they want to see what you really care about. And I think that you kind of amplifying that will help other people have a reason to connect with you.
I cannot agree with you more on that, because I come from China. I really love China. So every time when my friends eat salads, I'm like, I'm going to pick up my Chinese food and I will join you. And people see me as a Chinese expert. And at one time, my manager even asked me to run a China strategy. So that's because I really embrace who I am. And that's because I really amplify my unique identity. And I'm not shying away from that. So thank you so much, Deb. And thanks so much, everyone.
I would like you to turn on the screen so we can take a picture together. So we'll take a screenshot of you guys just to, so can we all turn on okay, it's gonna take a second to do this. So everyone turn on your screen, look good. Everyone look good. But I wanna be able to share that we had this chat. So, all right, awesome. So look at the camera, smile. And I'll have to do 3 screens because there's 3 screens of you guys. Okay, the last screen. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate everybody who joined us today.
And everyone, please unmute and give Deb some claps.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.